Hi, I'm Professor Delonix. This is the second video in a series discussing how to maximize your rewards in Pokemon's Go Battle League. In this video, I explain why you want to use a fast move focused team and how to make a really good one. I believe the most important resource in Pokemon Go is not Stardust or XP or even Rare Candy XL, but your time. And so the strategies that I focus on in this video series and in this channel will be on trying to maximize your time while playing Pokemon Go. In terms of Go Battle League, I'm not trying to be the best. I'm not trying to have the highest ELO rating. I'm just trying to get the most loot for my time. Team composition plays a big role in how fast the battle is. The most competitive teams often utilize really spammy charge moves to win the match. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, the fastest teams are fast move focused teams that primarily do most of their damage through doing fast moves. The reason the fast move teams are quicker is because every time a charge move is used, the player has to go through the charge move minigame. If you can reduce the amount of times that you have to go through that minigame, the match will be quicker. Of the 80 fast moves in Pokemon Go, only 18 are best suited for fast move damage teams. Basically, you want to use a Pokemon with a quick move that has 4 damage or higher. So that leaves Charm, Razor Leaf, Dragon Tail, Force Palm, Astonish, Bite, Confusion, Counter, Dragon Breath, Fire Fang, Ice Fang, Thunder Fang, Incinerate, Mud Slap, Rock Throw, Scratch, Sucker Punch, and finally Waterfall. But after we select Pokemon with the right fast move, we still have to find Pokemon that have the right charge moves too. These fast move teams don't use very many charge moves. And in fact, in most battles, all of your charge moves will be shielded. What that means is we don't really care how much damage a move does. What we really care most about are the secondary effects that the move has. Of the 212 charge moves in Pokemon Go, 41 have stat changing effects. Even if your opponent shields these moves, they will still either boost your Pokemon or hinder their Pokemon. Ideally, you want to use Pokemon who have a quick move that does 4 or more damage per turn and have a charge move that changes stats. And of course, Shadow is always better for these teams. To simplify making fast move damage teams, I made a graphic that lists all the Pokemon that have a qualifying fast move and charge move. The graphic is divided by fast moves. Under each fast move is a list of Pokemon that also have access to a qualifying charge move. Start picking your team by picking a Pokemon with the highest damage per tap fast move. The moves at the top of the graphic do more damage per tap, so start there. Under each fast move is a list of Pokemon that can use the fast move, as well as the ideal charge moves those Pokemon have available. The Pokemon in each section are ranked by their ratio of attack stat to the average of that Pokemon's defense and HP value, with shadow variation next to it. The numbers in bright green are the highest and the red are the lowest, though this is just to give a perspective of the best and worst teams within a tier. Tier 1 is always going to be better than Tier 3. Even though Haxorus has 106 rating, you're still using Dragon Tail versus Charm, and Charm does 5 damage per tap, whereas Dragon Tail only does 4.33. Once you've selected your primary Pokemon, hopefully from Tier 1 or 2, then select a Pokemon from the list that counters the weaknesses your hardest hitting Pokemon has. If you picked a hard-hitting grass type, make sure you use a Pokemon with Waterfall to balance those opposing fire types, maybe like Empoleon. Similarly, if you have a strong Charm user, you will want to use a Water type too to balance the Steel and Fire types that counter Fairy types. Last thing you do is choose a Pokemon that rounds out the resistances for your team. But really, when you're just getting into the Go Battle League, you don't have all the Pokemon or resources to make some of these optimal teams. So instead, let me walk you through some practical examples that almost anybody can do at almost any time. Here are the Pokemon I've caught over the past 4 days. Most of these 4 days have been without an event. The event spawns I caught yesterday, I'll exclude from consideration just to make sure this is representative of what your experiences will be like. Of the 321 Pokemon I caught over the past 3 days, 65 were eligible for this team. Of the 65 Pokemon that I just showed, 11 of them are Pokemon that I would use for Charm. There are only 3 different varieties of Pokemon here, but as you see on my list, there aren't that many to choose from to begin with. And all 3 of these will work just fine. For this team, I'm going to use this Ralts and evolve it into a Gardevoir. Gardevoir is my favorite for Go Battle League. And as you can see here, it's going to be above the Great League CP limit, so I'll make this for an Ultra League team. So since Gardevoir was over the Great League limit, I'm going to use this Snubbull for Granbull, but just to make sure I'm not wasting any more Stardust, I'm going to take a screenshot of the Pokemon and use one of my favorite resources, Pokegenie, to see where exactly that Pokemon will land in the league. That's a pretty unfortunate Granbull. Let's see if we can get a better one. All right, so that Snubbull is too high level, so it's got to be this one. So for one team, we'll have Gardevoir for the Ultra League team, and then for the Great League team, we'll have Granbull. Many times when people see that you're leading with a fairy type, they want to switch into a fire type. So I want to look at which waterfall users I can build for this team. Really, Granbull and Gardevoir aren't weak to fire, just that fire type Pokemon often beat them in matchups because they're resistant to fairy type damage. I was able to catch two different water types that we can use. I caught a Psyduck and a Shadow Carvanha. Luckily right now Sierra is giving out the Shadow Carvanha, so it's pretty plentiful. And to me that is by far the best the waterfall user that you can get. Even though I'm currently in an event that I could get rid of frustration, in this video I'm not going to, just to illustrate that it's not necessary. That fast move damage teams are really fast move damage focused. So let's evolve this Carvanha, and since it's a Shadow, I'll be able to use it for Great League. It'll be nice low CP. Just to make sure, I don't remember exactly how high Golduck's CP can get. So again, I'm gonna go switch over to Pokegenie, and I'm gonna see where this Golduck, Psyduck would end up as a Golduck. And level 45, but that's too much. The point of this team composition that I'm doing now is just to show which are the most accessible Pokemon to make for these teams. So I'm gonna skip that Golduck and find a different counter. Another possible counter for these fairy type teams is to use a ground type, since ground types deal with steel and fire types that torment fairy types. Of the 65 Pokemon, we have 3 that can learn Mud Slap. I'm looking at the IVs of these, not because I particularly care what the IVs are, but because I want to make sure that their level is going to be, that I'm not going to waste Stardust or Candy powering these guys up. Donphan can go to Ultra League, so we use Donphan and Ultra League team. So now we have 2 Pokemon selected for each team, for both the Ultra League and the Great League team. The Ultra League team has Gardevoir and Donphan. I think a big weakness to this team would be a grass and poison type. To balance that out, we should pick a Pokemon that would either resist or not be weak to grass. Since I caught this Jangmo-o, and I think it'll be fun for this video, I'm going to use this Komo-o in my Ultra League team. Komo-o has the fast move Dragon Tail and the charge move Brick Break. One team down, let's make a couple more. For this Great League team, we have our Charm user as Granbull and Sharpedo as our Waterfall user to fend off those fire types. When I'm looking at this Great League team, I see a team that is probably pretty weak to a lot of grass type users. And even if that's not the main weakness, like I said, I'm not trying to be the best. I'm just trying to get through and have these effective teams. And I think an effective choice here would be to choose Arcanine, a Fire Fang Arcanine. Arcanine will balance out our weaknesses to grass types, making Sharpedo a little more effective. So here are the 5 Growlithe's that I caught in the last 3 or 4 days. This almost 900 CP is probably too much. Let's try 410. Yeah, that one will probably work. Let's make sure though. Yeah, perfect. Arcanine at level 32. Perfect. So let's evolve them and tag them. All right, and I'm gonna make one more team just to show you guys how this works. I wanna make a team that is focused around a Razor Leaf user, the second best move to be basing a team around. Razor Leaf now does slightly less damage than Charm does, but there's way more Pokemon that have access to Razor Leaf and a lot more Shadow types, Shadow Pokemon that have access to Razor Leaf than Charm. Of the 65 eligible Pokemon for the strategy, 11 of them happen to be Razor Leaf Pokemon. Referencing my chart, I want to see which of these Pokemon has the highest attack to defense and HP ratio. Victory Bell and Tisserina are of the highest Pokemon. And since I already have a few Victory Bells in my account, and I don't have a Tisserina, I'm gonna go with that. And again, I'm just trying to find a Pokemon that I can put the least amount of Stardust and resources into and have them be useful in the league. As I already have a lot of examples of these, I'm just trying to show what it can be like for you guys to go out and in a couple days pick a great team. All right, not that one. That one was too high level. Let's see, this one was a little lower. Here we go. This one works, and I'll use it. Oh, this is actually really bad. It's only 1466. It's probably one of the worst IVs you can have. Let me try this one. Maybe this one will be better. It's got better PvP IVs. There we go. good for both Great League and Ultra League. Now we've got the first Pokemon for our third team. We need to figure out what are the weaknesses this Pokemon has and what can we do to balance them out. So mainly this Pokemon is weak to fire, ice, and poison types. Rock types are a great balance to those weaknesses. Rock types are super effective against ice and fire while also resisting poison. When I did the research for this video and I learned that Sudowoodo is one of the Pokemon that fits these parameters, I was really excited to give it a try, and I hoped that I would catch one. Well, it turns out I did, and I think Sudowoodo would be a great balance to this team that I'm making right now, this Great League team. So just because I want to use it and I think it would be kind of fun, I'm going to use this Sudowoodo. All right, now that we have Tisserina and Sudowoodo for this third team, let's pick a third Pokemon. Most of the time when you're bouncing around these ranks that I show in this series, you see a lot of fairy types and a lot of dragon types. So I think that we should pick a Pokemon that would take care of those two types mainly. Something that would be neutral to both fairy and dragon and help balance out this team. So let me peek at my chart and see what it suggests. And the last Pokemon I'm going to pick for this team is this Onix. Actually, I hope to make it into a Steelix. But Steelix has access to two fast moves that would work for this, Thunder Fang and Dragon Tail. I think Dragon Tail will be the best because that's going to allow us to counter many of the other dragon types that people use. But let's double check, make sure this Onix is good first. There we go. So I'm going to evolve it now and put it in the team. Now that we have our three teams, let's actually finish making them into full-fledged teams. Donphan, we're going to be using that as a ground type user to counter the fire type, so we got to switch over to Mud Slap. And our charge move, we want nothing to do with these fast ones. We want Trailblaze. Wow, we got lucky first try. Trailblaze and Mud Slap. As just to reiterate, we know our charge moves are mainly going to get shielded, and we really care about the effects that the charge moves have rather than the damage that they do. So that's why we want Trailblaze. Similarly, we don't want Psychic, which does a good amount of damage. We want Triple Axle. Hopefully that'll come up soon. And Triple Axle, there it is. And Triple Axle increases your attack stat by 1 stage, just like Trailblaze. As the chart makes clear, we don't want Magical Leaf, we want Charm. Okay, now we have our Mud Slap, Trailblaze, Donphan, and our Charm, Triple Axle, Gardevoir. And we already have our Dragon Tail, Break Brick, Komodo. So this team is ready to go, just needs to be powered up. As you can see, the IVs are definitely not perfect. There's a lot of room for improvement and just maximizing these Pokemon. But these are examples that you can just get at any time, just randomly as you're playing. These are the kind of Pokemon that you would encounter. All right, my Great League team, need to put less Stardust into them, thankfully. Bring Growlithe up, maybe Arcanine up, and bring this Granbull up. And lastly, Sharpedo. All right, now we just got to make sure the moves are right. For Granbull, we don't want Snarl, we want not Bite. Bite would be okay, but we have a better option. We want not Snarl, we want not Bite. I swear it exists, it's down here. Charm, that's what we want. And as far as his charge move, it really doesn't matter. Crunch is it fits somewhat. If you get lucky, it could reduce the opponent's defense, so you might as well use that. And Sharpedo, we don't want Bite, we want Waterfall for this team makeup to take care of those fires. And then lastly, for Arcanine, we want Fire Fang. Oh, luckily it already has that. Fire Fang, because we want it to balance out the grass types. We mainly want Psychic Fangs. Psychic Fangs is great because it always drops the opponent's defense by 1. And if you're already doing a good amount of damage, that defense drop can be quite harmful. All right, this team is ready to go too. Last thing to do is check out Team 3. Now I'm excited for the Sudowoodo for no good reason, because it's probably not going to be that amazing, but it's something, that's what's also fun about these teams, is that you get to play different Pokemon. All of the best Pokemon for Go Battle League have the opposite kind of stat configuration that these guys have. Low attack, high HP, and high defense. But with these Pokemon, they're all attack weighted. They all favor the attack stat. And these are often Pokemon that you wouldn't use in Go Battle League. It kind of makes team creation a little more diverse than it otherwise would be when you're just looking at only the best Pokemon for the league. Let's switch Magical Leaf off of this guy to Charm, or Razor Leaf. We're using Razor Leaf, but in addition to Razor Leaf, you want the Ice type, Triple Axle, not Draining Kiss, we want Triple Axle. There it is, Triple Axle. Boom. All right, now Steelix. For Steelix, we want to use Dragon Tail because he's actually going to be our Dragon type. Whenever anybody uses a Dragon type against this team, we're going to switch into Steelix. And the steel from Steelix will resist their dragon type moves, and our dragon tail will do extra damage because it'll be super effective. Breaking Swipe is fine, and if I had 2 moves on this Pokemon, I would definitely keep Breaking Swipe. But since I'm only going to use one charge attack on this for this video, I need to switch this over to Psychic Fangs. Psychic Fangs is much better than Breaking Swipe, since it guarantees the defense debuff. The one thing with Steelix though is it has a ton of different charge moves. So finding the specific one that you want can take quite a bit of charge TMs. Back to Breaking Swipe, not what I'm looking for. Every once in a while, you'll use the TMs and you'll wonder, is this move really available? So I'm in that phase right now. I've used about 10 charge TMs, and I want to make sure that Psychic Fangs is indeed not a elite charge TM move. I don't think so. No, it's a regular one. I just have the worst luck right now of getting Psychic Fangs. Not Crunch, not Breaking Swipes, not Earthquake, not Heavy Slam, not Breaking Swipes. Not Earthquake. This is something's... finally! Psychic Fangs. I don't know how long it took. I'm going to see in the post edit. But man, that must have been 15 or 20 charge TMs. Sometimes it can be like that, though. Okay, the teams are set. Oh, still got to power this one up. Let's power this up real quick. Okay, all 3 teams are set. We have Tesserina lead with Sudowoodo and Steelix as our balancing Pokemon for the 3rd team. Our Great League team has Granbull as the lead with Sharpedo and Arcanine as our switches. And lastly, our Ultra League team has Gardevoir as our lead and Komodo and Donphan as our switches. After 420 matches during Pokemon Go's 2024 World Championships, here are the results of the 3 teams that we created. Right off the top, 213 of those 420 matches were intentional losses to situate my ELO rating at around 950 each time I started battling with the team. I battled with each team until that team lost 3 times in one set or 2 times in 2 consecutive sets. That way, each team had a fair starting and end point. But after all those adjustments, that leaves 207 competitive matches. The Granbull, Arcanine, and Sharpedo Great League team managed to win 35 out of its 45 matches for a win percentage of 78%. And in the process, it reached ELO rating 1388. And again, these are not its peak ratings, just the rating it could achieve under the parameters that I mentioned just a moment ago. The Grass Lead Great League team went through a few iterations during its 100 matches. First, we started with the lead of Tesserina, and eventually I relented and I made a Victory Bell to lead with because I needed it to balance out many of the fairy types that I was encountering. But ultimately, I ended up using both of the Pokemon in the team at different times. Another thing to point out is Steelix. At first I used Steelix in this team, but eventually I took it out, not because it wasn't successful. It was actually really useful in all the matches, but it was just really spammy with using a ton of charge moves. To replace Steelix in this team, I used Venomoth for a while until I accidentally transferred it during Beldum Community Day. But the stable core of this Great League Razor Leaf team was Tesserina and/or Victory Bell and Sudowoodo. The Razor Leaf Great League team battled in 100 matches and won 79 of those matches for a winning percentage of 79%, reaching a peak ELO rating of 1509. Last, but certainly not least, is the Ultra League team. This Ultra League team was by far my favorite team to play with. It's probably because it leads with Gardevoir and this type of, hard-hitting fast move with a powering up charge move like Triple Axle really makes the fast move pressure accumulate as the match goes on, and it really makes it makes for fun. This team was by far my favorite team to use, and it will only get more powerful when Mudslap gets its buff in Season 20. The Ultra League team battled in 62 battles and won 51 battles for a win percentage of 82%, reaching a peak ELO rating of 1647. As you can see by these teams winning 78% of their matches, these teams are great for maximizing your time in Go Battle League. Now that you see how these teams can be used in Go Battle League, let me show you how to go through Go Battle League to maximize your rewards. In the next video in this series, I discuss the strategy of tanking and banking, where you drop your rating to a comfortable level and then you bank your rewards as you go up.